Welcome, my witchlings, to Witchy Wisdom, our little corner of the day dedicated to learning, exploring, and deepening our understanding of the craft. Whether you're brand new to the path or like me, you've been walking it for years, there's always something new to discover. So let's take just a few minutes together to explore the history, practices, tools, and traditions that help us build a more thoughtful, informed, and meaningful practice. Namaste, my witchlings, and welcome back to Witchy 101. So the last time we met, we explored the waxing moon and the energy of growth, momentum, manifestation, and expansion. Today, we're going to be talking about the moon phase that most people think of when they hear the words moon magic, the full moon. Even people who know very little to nothing about witchcraft often know that witches are associated with the full moon. Movies show it, books talk about it, artwork features it. The image of a witch standing beneath a bright full moon or flying across one on her broom has become some of the most recognizable symbols of modern witchcraft. But why? What makes the full moon so important? To answer that question, let's start with something simple. Look at what the moon is doing. After 2 weeks of growth, the moon has reached its fullest and brightest appearance in the sky. The light is at its peak. The cycle has reached a moment of completion. And because symbolism plays such an important role in magical practice, many witches associate the full moon with culmination, completion, illumination, awareness, and celebration. The full moon is often viewed as the harvest point of the lunar cycle. Not necessarily a literal harvest, although agricultural communities have certainly relied on moonlight throughout history. A spiritual harvest. A chance to look at what has grown since the new moon. A chance to recognize progress. A chance to acknowledge the work we have done. One of the lessons I think the full moon teaches particularly well is that we don't celebrate ourselves enough. Many, if not most of us, are constantly focused on the next goal. The next project, the next challenge, the next thing that we need to fix. We move from accomplishment to accomplishment without ever pausing to appreciate how far we have come. The full moon invites us to pause, to look around and take inventory, to recognize growth that might otherwise go unnoticed. If you set intentions during the new moon and took action during the waxing moon, the full moon becomes your opportunity to ask, what's working? What have I learned? What progress have I made? What deserves celebration? Sometimes the answer is kind of obvious, and sometimes it is surprisingly small. But small victories matter too. Especially because those small victories are often what create larger transformations over time. Another reason the full moon is associated with magical work is because of its symbolism of illumination. The moon is shining at its brightest, things become easier to see, paths become more visible, details stand out. Many witches view this as a powerful metaphor. What in your life is becoming clearer? What truth have you been avoiding? What insight is finally making sense? What lesson are you beginning to understand? This symbolism is one reason divination is so commonly associated with the full moon. Practices like tarot reading, oracle cards, I don't have a pendulum handy, pendulum work, scrying, rune casting, and meditation often appear in full moon rituals. I do all of those things. Anyway, not because the full moon magically grants psychic powers, but because many practitioners find it easier to slow down, reflect, and listen during this phase. The symbolism encourages clarity, and sometimes clarity is exactly what we need. Now, let's talk about Esbats. We talk about Sabbats and Esbats a lot in magic. Now, because if you have spent time in witchcraft communities, there is a good chance you've heard that word before. Sabbats, Esbats. An Esbat is a ritual or observance connected to the lunar cycle. Most often, Esbats are celebrated during the full moon. Unlike Sabbats, which mark seasonal changes throughout the wheel of the year, Esbats focus specifically on lunar energy. Think of it this way. if I cannot inhale my own saliva. Think of it this way. Sabbats follow the seasons, Esbats follow the moon. Some traditions hold formal full moon circles. Others gather for prayer, meditation, spell work, or divination. Some covens perform elaborate ceremonies complete with robes, ritual tools, and structured rites. Others keep things simple and informal. And solitary practitioners often create deeply personal full moon traditions of their own. Historically, many magical traditions viewed the full moon as a natural time for gathering. Before widespread electric lighting, moonlight provided one of the brightest sources of nighttime illumination available. A full moon allowed communities to travel more safely, work later, gather together, and participate in social and spiritual activities after dark. Over time, practical realities often became spiritual traditions. And that's something else you're going to see repeatedly throughout magical history. Many practices that seem mystical today often began with very practical roots. And one thing I love about Esbats is they can be as simple or as elaborate as you want them to be. You don't need a coven. You don't need expensive tools. You don't need a perfectly curated altar. You don't need social media worthy aesthetics. Oh, dear goddess, no. You simply need intention. A full moon Esbat might involve lighting a candle and spending a few moments in gratitude. Or it might involve pulling some tarot cards, maybe some journaling. Or it might involve sharing a meal with some friends. Maybe stepping outside and quietly appreciating the beauty of the moon itself. Or if you're like a friend of mine, go dance skyclad under the full moon. There is no spiritual prize for making things more complicated than they need to be. In fact, some of the most meaningful magical experiences happen when we stop trying so damn hard. All right. Now, let's talk about another common full moon topic. Charging objects, like crystals. Many practitioners enjoy placing crystals, tarot decks, jewelry, ritual tools, water, or other magical items beneath the full moon. This practice is often called moon charging. The idea is that the object symbolically absorbs lunar energy. Whether you view this literally, symbolically, spiritually, or psychologically is entirely up to you. What matters most is the intention behind the practice. If placing your tarot deck beneath the moon helps you feel more connected to your spiritual work, that's valuable. If charging your crystals helps you reconnect with your intentions, that's valuable too. The object itself is often less important than the relationship you're building with the practice. There's that word again. I also think it's important to address one of the biggest misconceptions surrounding the full moon. The idea that every full moon needs to be intense. If you have spent any time online, you've probably seen people blame every single inconvenience on the full moon. Or Mercury retrograde. But that's another topic altogether. The printer jammed? Oh, it's the full moon. You misplaced your keys? Oh, it's the full moon. Someone cut you off in traffic? Definitely the full moon. And while many people genuinely report feeling more energetic, emotional, or sensitive during full moons, it is important not to surrender all personal responsibility to the lunar cycle. The moon may influence our awareness, it may encourage reflection, it may highlight emotions that were already present, but it doesn't force us to behave badly. The full moon is not an excuse. It's an invitation. An invitation to pay attention and become more aware and engage consciously with our own lives. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson the full moon has to offer. Awareness. Awareness of our progress, our emotions, our relationships, of what is growing, what is changing, and who we are becoming. Because every cycle eventually reaches a moment of fullness, a moment where we can finally see the results of our efforts, a moment where we can celebrate, where we can accomplish what has been, or where we can acknowledge what has been accomplished. But no cycle stays there forever. After every full moon comes another phase, a phase of release and letting go, a phase that we will explore next time when we discuss the waning moon. I am Di the Yoga Witch, my lovely witchlings, and this has been Witchy 101. Stay curious, stay grounded, keep the heart fire burning, and go make some good trouble. Until next time, my witchlings, namaste.